I was a dedicated software engineer at a prestigious tech startup in Seattle. For 7 years, I poured my heart and soul into the company I helped build from the ground up. The CEO, Anthony, had promised me the CTO position for years. We were more than colleagues. We were friends who shared a vision. I never imagined my dedication would become the very thing they would use against me. Before I share how I turned the tables on those who betrayed me, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever felt undervalued at work. I grew up in a middle-class family in Portland, where my fascination with computers started early. While other kids played sports, I taught myself coding languages and built simple applications. My parents could not afford expensive computer science degrees, so I relied on community college courses and online tutorials to sharpen my skills. The turning point came at a regional tech conference in 2013. I was 27, then hungry for opportunity, but struggling to break into the industry without the fancy credentials most companies demanded. That is where I met Anthony. He was 32, energetic with wild ideas and impressive connections despite being a struggling developer himself. We do not just want to build another app. Anthony told me over coffee after we bonded at a coding workshop. We want to revolutionize healthcare through technology, make it accessible to everyone. His vision resonated with my own desire to create something meaningful. By the end of the conference, he invited me to join his fledgling startup, just 4 developers working from his garage in Seattle. The salary was barely enough for rent, but the equity offer and the promise of building something revolutionary convinced me. "You will be on the ground floor of something big," Anthony promised. "When we make it, you will make it too." I turned down offers from Google and Microsoft positions that offered twice the salary and established career paths. My family thought I was crazy, but I believed in what we were building, a platform that would connect patients, doctors, and healthcare providers through secure, intuitive interfaces. Those early days were electric. We worked 16-hour days, survived on ramen and energy drinks, and coded until our fingers cramped. The 5 of us, Anthony, myself, and 3 other developers, became a tight-knit family, united by our shared mission. Our first breakthrough came 18 months in. A regional healthcare network agreed to pilot our patient management system. The contract was modest, but it validated our concept and brought in revenue. We celebrated by moving from Anthony's garage to a small office space downtown, a cramped, windowless room that felt like a palace compared to where we had started. As the company grew, new characters entered our story. During year 3, Anthony brought in James as Chief Operating Officer, a shrewd businessman with piercing eyes and a reputation for aggressive growth strategies. Samantha joined as Head of Human Resources, always ready with a supportive word and practical solution. Then there was Derek, another programmer who started around the same time as me and became my closest ally in the coding trenches. While others maintained work-life balance, I lived and breathed the company. I missed family Thanksgivings to fix critical bugs. I postponed vacations when deadlines loomed. When my sister got married, I flew in for the ceremony and was coding on my laptop at the reception. The company was not just my job, it was my identity, my purpose, my future. During a late-night coding session in our 4th year, Anthony stopped by my desk with 2 beers. "When we hit 50 employees, you are going to be our CTO," he said, clinking his bottle against mine. "No one deserves it more. No one understands our vision or our code better than you." That promise became my North Star. Through every 12-hour day, every missed weekend, every sacrifice, I held onto those words. As the company grew from 10 employees to 20, then 30, I reminded myself that my dedication would pay off. In our 6th year, we reached 48 employees. The company had moved to a sleek office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Our platform was being used by healthcare providers across 3 states. Investors were lining up. The dream we had sketched out years ago was becoming reality. Anthony took the original team out for dinner at an upscale steakhouse to celebrate. As we reminisced about the garage days, he raised a toast. To Rudolph, he said, "The backbone of this company and my future CTO. Just 2 more hires to go." I went home that night and told my sister Natalie about the dinner. "It is finally happening," I said. everything I have worked for. I spent evenings mapping out my vision for the technical department. I would restructure our development teams, implement the continuous integration pipeline I had been advocating for, and finally address our technical debt. I even drafted a speech for my first day as CTO. After 7 years of sacrifice, my moment was coming. The first signs appeared so subtly I almost missed them. Anthony began canceling our weekly lunches, first citing investor meetings, then offering no explanation at all. Our one-on-one meetings shortened from an hour to 30 minutes, then to quick conversations by the coffee machine. "Everything okay?" I asked after the third canceled lunch. "Just swamped," he replied, not quite meeting my eyes. "Growing pains, you know how it is." I attributed his distance to stress until Tyler arrived. Tall, confident with an MBA from Stanford, and experience at our biggest competitor, Tyler, was introduced as a strategic hire for the executive team. His role remained vaguely defined, something about growth initiatives and market expansion. The office rumor mill activated immediately. "I heard they are restructuring the executive team," whispered Alicia from marketing as we waited for coffee. "My buddy in finance said, there are big changes coming to the org chart," Derek told me during a code review. I tried to ignore the whispers, but anxiety gnawed at me when I noticed Tyler joining meetings I was no longer invited to. Strategy sessions that once included me now happened behind closed doors. One Tuesday afternoon, I rounded the corner to the conference room and found Anthony and James in intense conversation. They went silent when they saw me. "Rudolph." "Just the man we wanted to see," Anthony said, with forced cheerfulness. "We need your input on the Johnson account migration." The subject change was so abrupt, so artificial, that the knot in my stomach tightened. That night I could not sleep, replaying years of conversations and promises in my head. The next morning I confronted Anthony in his office. "Is something going on I should know about?" "People are talking about executive restructuring." Anthony leaned back in his chair, his smile not reaching his eyes. "People always talk, Rudolph. You know that. Nothing for you to worry about. We are still on track with our plans." I wanted to believe him, but his words felt hollow. That same day, I ran into Samantha from HR in the break room. When I asked about the rumored restructuring, she avoided eye contact, suddenly very interested in stirring her coffee. "I do not know the details," she said, "but Anthony always does what is best for the company." The final warning came through a careless email. James accidentally copied me on a message meant for the board about transition plans for technical leadership. I stared at those words on my screen for 10 minutes, trying to convince myself they could mean anything. Derek confirmed my fears 2 days later, cornering me in the stairwell. "I overheard James and Tyler talking in the bathroom," he said, voice low. "They were discussing how to transfer your knowledge without disrupting the development timeline. Rudolph, I think they are planning to replace you." That night was the first time I did not respond to a production alert. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every promise, every sacrifice. Had I misunderstood? Had I not worked hard enough? Was I not good enough? The next day, I arrived an hour early and stayed 3 hours late. I picked up extra tickets, fixed bugs that had been languishing in the backlog, and sent Anthony detailed proposals for improving our architecture. I was determined to prove my value, to remind everyone what I contributed. A week later, the company hired our 50th employee, a junior developer for the mobile team. I waited for Anthony to call me into his office to make good on his promise. Days passed with no mention of the CTO position. Then came the email sent company-wide on a Wednesday afternoon. "Please join us Friday at 3 p.m. for an important company announcement regarding our executive leadership team." This was it, I thought, the moment I had worked 7 years for. I spent Thursday polishing my acceptance speech and planning how I would restructure the department as CTO. Friday arrived with a buzz of anticipation. The entire company gathered in the main conference space, champagne bottles chilling in the corner. I took a seat in the front row, heart pounding with excitement. Anthony took the stage with James and the board members. His smile seemed forced, his eyes never quite landing on me. "As we continue our growth trajectory, we need leadership that can take us to the next level," he began. "Someone with the industry connections and fresh perspective to attract the Series B funding we need. My stomach tightened. This did not sound like the introduction I expected. I am thrilled to announce Tyler Bennett as our new Chief Technology Officer. The room erupted in applause as Tyler stepped forward, shaking hands with the board members. The sound seemed distant, drowned out by the rushing in my ears. 7 years of sacrifice, reduced to this moment of complete humiliation. I felt eyes on me, pitying glances from colleagues who knew what this meant. Derek squeezed my shoulder in silent support. Samantha could not meet my gaze. Someone pushed me forward. "Go congratulate him," a voice urged. I found myself shaking Tyler's hand, my face frozen in what I hoped resembled a smile. "Looking forward to working with you," Tyler said, his grip firm, his smile confident. Anthony finally approached, clapping me on the back like we were still friends. "Exciting times ahead," he said, still not meeting my eyes. I excused myself as the champagne started flowing. In the bathroom, I locked myself in a stall, pressing my forehead against the cool metal partition, trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. 7 years. Countless 60-hour weeks, missed holidays and family gatherings, all for this betrayal. When I returned to my desk, an email from Anthony waited, meeting with Anthony and James at 4:30 p.m. to discuss your role going forward. The meeting was worse than I imagined. Anthony and James sat across from me, their expressions practiced masks of corporate concern. "We value your contributions enormously," Anthony began, "which is why we want to offer you a senior developer position, reporting to Tyler. We think your technical skills are best utilized in a hands-on role," James added. "Not everyone is cut out for executive leadership." The truth emerged gradually through their careful corporate speak. They had kept me working with false promises, while they searched for someone with the right profile for investors. Tyler brought connections to venture capital firms they needed for the next funding round. My technical expertise was valuable, but contained to coding, not leading. "This is just business, Rudolph, nothing personal," Anthony said the words. Cutting deeper, coming from someone I once considered a friend. "We hope you will embrace this opportunity to focus on what you do best," James added. Then came the final insult. As I pressed for answers, I discovered my salary had been 40% below market rate for years. "We compensated with equity," James explained dismissively. "The equity that would now be diluted in the upcoming funding round." As I left the meeting in a daze, I overheard Tyler in the conference room, presenting my ideas for continuous integration as his own innovation. The plans I had shared with Anthony months ago were now being attributed to the new CTO. That evening, the company hosted a happy hour to celebrate the new executive team. I went home instead to my empty apartment with the view of the city I had sacrificed everything for. I ordered takeout I did not eat and opened a beer I did not drink. For the first time in 7 years, I did not check my work email before bed. I lay awake until 3 in the morning, cycling through shock, grief, and anger. Everything I thought I knew, my value, my friendship with Anthony, my future, had been revealed as an illusion. The turning point came during my darkest moment. Staring at the ceiling at 3:15 in the morning, a strange calm settled over me. I had given this company everything, my time, my youth, my brilliance. And I had let them take it all because I believed in promises rather than contracts, in friendship rather than business. The next morning I called my sister Natalie, the only person who had consistently questioned my blind loyalty to the company. "They used you, Rudy," she said after I explained what happened. "But you have more power than you realize. You built that company as much as Anthony did." Her words sparked something. I spent the weekend methodically reviewing the codebase I had created over 7 years. The company depended on my code modules and systems I had architected and implemented largely alone. The database structures, the API design, the security protocols all bore my fingerprints. More critically, I discovered the company had never properly documented my work. In their rush to grow, proper knowledge, transfer, and documentation had been perpetually backburnered. No one, not even Tyler, understood the entire system architecture the way I did. On Monday, I reached out to Jordan, a former colleague who had left for a competitor a year earlier. "Their offer still stands," he told me over coffee. "They have been trying to build what you already created for years. Your knowledge is worth twice what they are paying you now." Next, I consulted an intellectual property attorney, bringing my original employment contract and documentation of my contributions. "This clause is interesting," she said, pointing to a section I had never paid attention to. "Any code developed on your own time using your own equipment remains your intellectual property, unless explicitly assigned to the company." I remembered the countless weekends I had spent coding at home on my personal laptop core algorithms and modules that I had later integrated into the company's platform without formal IP assignment. The company had cutting corners in their legal documentation, just as they had with their technical documentation. Rather than burning bridges, I decided to create leverage. I meticulously documented everything: my contributions, the market value of my work, the potential disruption if I left the intellectual property questions. I prepared a presentation, not of grievances, but of value. My value, which had been systematically under-recognized. During this time, I maintained my professional demeanor at work. I continued performing my duties, though I no longer stayed late or worked weekends. I noticed Anthony watching me with growing unease. I reconnected with industry contacts who had tried to recruit me over the years. 2 competing firms immediately expressed interest, not just in hiring me, but in bringing me on as a technical founder with appropriate equity and title. With these options secured, I requested a meeting with Anthony James and the board. The confusion on their faces when I made this request through formal channels, rather than directly to Anthony, told me they expected me to simply accept their decision and continue as before. The meeting was scheduled for Wednesday morning. I spent Tuesday night reviewing my presentation, calling Natalie for moral support, and finally getting a good night's sleep for the first time in weeks. I arrived at the conference room 15 minutes early, setting up my laptop and arranging copies of my presentation at each seat. When Anthony entered with James and 3 board members, his expression wavered between concern and confusion at my calm demeanor. "Thank you for meeting with me," I began. "I want to discuss my contributions to this company and my path forward." For the next 30 minutes, I methodically presented the systems I had built, the problems I had solved, and the direct revenue impact of my work. I showed market salary data for someone of my experience and contribution level. I outlined the lack of documentation for systems only I fully understood. Then I calmly revealed the intellectual property questions surrounding code I had developed on my own time and equipment. "These core algorithms that our entire platform depends on," I explained, "displaying code on the screen, were developed on weekends on my personal equipment and never formally assigned to the company per section 12.3 of my employment agreement." James interrupted, his face flushing. "Are you threatening us? Because our legal team will—" "I am not threatening anyone," I replied evenly. "I am clarifying the situation so we can find a path forward that respects everyone's interests." I slid copies of the legal opinion I had obtained across the table. The atmosphere shifted as the board members exchanged concerned glances. They were business people who understood leverage when they saw it. "I should also mention," I continued, "that I have received offers from 2 competitors who understand the value of my contributions and experience. One is prepared to bring me on as technical co-founder, with appropriate equity and authority." Anthony's face paled. "You would go to a competitor? After everything we built together?" "I would prefer not to," I said honestly. "I believe in what we are building here. I have 7 years invested in this platform and this team, but I need to be valued appropriately for my contributions." James attempted to reassert control, suggesting we adjourn to consult their attorneys. But the board chair raised her hand. "I think we should hear Rudolph out completely," she said. "What exactly are you proposing?" James and Anthony were asked to step outside while I spoke with the board alone. In that conversation, I was direct but reasonable about what I wanted: the CTO position, with clear authority over technical decisions, equity adjustment to compensate for years of below-market salary, public acknowledgement of my contributions, and restructuring of the executive team. Specifically, James needed to go. His focus on growth at all costs has created technical debt and morale issues throughout the company, I explained. And his treatment of founding team members sets a concerning precedent for company culture. The board asked thoughtful questions about my vision for the technical direction of the company, my ability to work with Anthony moving forward, and my plans for the department. After an hour, they thanked me and asked for 48 hours to consider their response. Those 2 days were the longest of my life. I continued working, ignoring the curious glances and whispered questions from colleagues who had noticed the unusual meeting. I had made my stand. Now I needed to be prepared for any outcome, including walking away. On Friday morning, I received a message from the board chair requesting a meeting that afternoon. When I entered the conference room, only she and the other board members were present. No Anthony, no James. "We have considered your presentation carefully," she began. "And we agree that your contributions have been undervalued and your treatment has been problematic." They accepted my terms with minor modifications. I would become CTO immediately, with Tyler moving to a business development role that better leveraged his investor connections. My compensation would be adjusted with additional equity. James would be transitioning out of the company over the next month. Most importantly, there would be a company-wide acknowledgement of my contributions and role in building the platform. "Anthony has agreed to these terms," she added. "He has also asked to speak with you privately after we conclude here." When the board members left, Anthony entered looking more humble than I had seen him in years. "I screwed up," he said, simply taking a seat across from me. "I got caught up in what investors wanted and what James said we needed to look like. I forgot who actually built this company." He extended his hand. "I hope we can rebuild the trust I broke." I shook his hand, emotions mixed. "That depends on what happens moving forward," I replied honestly. The company announcement came Monday morning. The shock on Tyler's face when his role change was announced mirrored my own from weeks earlier. Samantha looked relieved. Derek gave me a subtle thumbs up from across the room. As I took the podium as the new CTO, I saw respect in the eyes of my colleagues, not just for my technical abilities, but for standing up for my worth. My first action as CTO was to call a technical team meeting where I acknowledged the contributions of overlooked team members and outlined a transparent communication policy for all future decisions. I instituted documentation requirements and knowledge-sharing protocols to ensure no one person held all the keys to critical systems. The healthcare platform launched in 3 more states within 6 months, with my name properly credited in the press releases. The company culture transformed under new leadership, one that valued contribution over politics, substance over style. Anthony and I rebuilt our relationship gradually now, on more equal footing. He focused on vision and partnerships, while respecting my authority over technical matters. James' replacement brought a more collaborative approach to operations. Looking back a year later, with the company now at 100 employees and our platform in use across 12 states, I can see how that painful betrayal ultimately led to growth, both for the company and for me personally. Standing up for my value not only secured me the position and compensation I deserved, but also created a healthier company culture that benefited everyone. The board later admitted that our improved retention and innovation metrics validated their decision. The experience taught me invaluable lessons about self-worth and boundaries in professional relationships. Documentation and clear agreements matter more than promises and perceived friendships. But most importantly, I learned that my value does not come from others' recognition, but from my own understanding of my worth. The painful period of betrayal forced me to develop strengths. I never knew I had the courage to confront powerful people, the strategic thinking to create leverage, and the confidence to walk away, if necessary. I now mentor overlooked talent within the company, helping them recognize and advocate for their own value. The junior developers I advise will never have to learn these lessons the hard way. My relationship with work has evolved too. I no longer define myself solely through my job or sacrifice my personal life for corporate goals. I take vacations. I attend family events. I have boundaries that protect my well-being while still allowing me to contribute meaningfully to the company's mission. The promise I made to myself that night to never let anyone determine my worth again turned out to be the most important commitment I have ever kept. Have you ever had to stand up for your value at work? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life lessons. And remember, your worth is not determined by others' recognition, but by your own understanding of your value. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to stand up for yourself when it matters most.